Thank you so much. And I'm not going to say I'm going to be brief, but I certainly will not bring this to a extraordinarily long end. But there are thank yous. There are sentiments that obviously need to be expressed. But I think the sentiment overall is gratitude. Gratitude, again, for the opportunity to be in these chambers. Gratitude for the opportunity to share our opinions, to debate our philosophies, and to govern in a way that reflects, yes, our districts and what we believe is for the betterment of the state. But as Senator Ort said, none of this happens without all of us working together. And this is, in this night of gratitude, the time where I, too, get a chance to thank all of the people who make this work. And I, of course, want to say thank you to my deputy, guy who keeps it moving, keeps the decorum. He too is really not allowed to leave. Every once in a while you do, and then you're like, okay, let me get back. But I want to thank you, Senator Gineris, for really helping to guide the ship and getting us to the end. And I'm going to tell a secret. He's going to be a daddy. Very exciting. And of course, your counterpart, Senator Lanza, we've been, you know, I was going to, you don't know what you did, do you? Yeah, no. You know, I was, because when you were thanking him, you actually said Gineris. Yes, you did. So I was going to do that. You thanked him, then you thanked, but I knew you were so I will give you, but thank you also, Senator Lanza, for what you do. Thank you. Senator Ort, certainly it is a pleasure. Even when you staged a mini revolt, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? You know, but I found out, and you know, we get to talk, and then everybody comes back together, and we eventually get to the end. But it's good working with you, and I will always strive to keep the lines of communication open. Obviously, I want to thank the incredible staff on both sides of the aisle. I know my staff has really, like you said, there's been so many twists and turns, and so it's been a perpetual going and going and going. So I thank each and every one of you for really creating an environment, no matter how bumpy or how uncertain, really just even and really professional. And again, I know we've been on the minority side, and staff in the minority work just as hard, and sometimes even harder, because you have to do a lot of catching up. So again, thank you so much to the staff. And when I talk about staff, I really have to shout out my senior staff, who really have just been incredible. My counsel, Eric Katz. the money man, my finance director, Dave Friedfeld. Mike Murphy, communications director with Murph. I want to thank Jonathan Alvarenga, my director of operations, and all of my staff here in the Capitol, 907 in the district. Just thank you so much. I said, I know you have to run a lot because of me. And I also want to thank, where's Alejandra? Alejandra Paulino, Secretary of Senate. Thank you, Ale. She thought of getting us all these cool bottles so that we will stay hydrated during the summer. But thank you, Ali, for always making sure everything is, again, the way it should be. Also, Big Ben, Ben Sturgis. And all the sergeant at arms who keep us safe. I think it's pretty clear that it takes a village. And every single one of you, every single one of us plays an essential role in this village. And of course, I want to thank my conference. Every time I get an opportunity to say, you know, how incredible you are, and I'll look over there too, and I gotta look back there, and thank you. Thank you for never being afraid to take on the hard fights, to do things that were never ever entertained before in these chambers, because so many of us were never in the chamber. But here we are, and every day we prove to New York and to New Yorkers what leadership looks like. I also want to thank my the first ever class of all women freshman senators. Never done. Come on. I was trying to get Patricia over, but, you know, Patricia, because you were alone in the group, and I said, come on over, but she didn't. Stayed. But I want to say to them that they all brought such unique and diverse perspectives to our body, and you all have accomplished so much in your very, very first year in Albany. When I stood in front of the chamber at the beginning of the year, it was to lead New York's first ever back-to-back supermajorities in state history. Voters sent us here once again to continue addressing the most pressing issues of the day with the same level of tenacity and resolve that we've demonstrated since the beginning. We were tasked with formulating timely solutions that not only alleviated the symptoms, but rooted out the disease. We spent this session fighting at every turn for the best interests of the people we represent, and certainly for middle and working class families. We opened strong pro-democracy, pro-choice legislation to counter national rollbacks. We used our purse to craft a historic budget that funds resources and opportunities from the middle out and from the bottom up, creating a more affordable New York for all. And now, we're closing with robust policies that carry this year's momentum to unlock our greatest potential for generations to come. The rest of the nation looks to us to set an example. That's why the work we do here carries enormous weight, because the path we clear today will be the road that others will take tomorrow. As some seek to upend the pillars of our democracy and claw at the heart of American values, New York continues to stand as a breakwater. Per our tradition since taking the majority, we started this session by advancing a new state of voting reforms and election protections that pay homage to the people who sent us here and ensure that they always have the final say in these halls of power. We expanded ballot access, strengthened anti-suppression measures. We took steps to join the ERIC database that will keep voter registration information up to date across the state lines. We also rejected the draconian attacks on our reproductive freedoms by advancing the second passage of the Equal Rights Amendment, which codifies reproductive care and gender equality in the state of New York. We further strengthened provider protections, increased access to services, solidifying New York as a destination state for anyone in need of reproductive care. And we held ourselves accountable by enacting much-needed judicial reforms, ensuring the arbiters of justice are beholden solely to the law. Our state was founded by those fleeing oppression in search of the freedom we hold dear. That's why we took proactive steps in this year's legislative budget to allocate $1.3 billion for asylum seeker support, and we'll continue to work with our state and federal partners in addressing the situation with humanity and grace. We also passed the Coverage for All legislation that will help provide health care to immigrant brothers and sisters without burdening our state taxpayers. New York will look to champion the values we were built upon, but we can only do that if our own foundation is rock solid. That means continuing to make New York an affordable state where families can settle down and raise their children without being priced out of their livelihoods. This session, we help make that a reality by raising the minimum wage and indexing it to inflation to make it a true living wage. We also continue supporting families by expanding the child care tax credit eligibility to kids under 5, because no parent should have to choose between raising their child and making a living. We looked to make the everyday cost of living a lot cheaper by passing ratepayer protections, capping the price of insulin, prohibiting price gouging of medicine, and this week passing the New York HEAT Act. With these measures, we're making it more economically possible to stay in the place you've always known, keeping New York's excellence right here at home. Reinvesting in New York communities is fundamental to the continued growth and success of our state as a whole. That's why, in addition to supporting households, we've also taken steps to bolster local resources. We prioritize public transportation and infrastructure by continuing to fund MTA services that result in better service, including a pilot program of 5 free buses throughout the city boroughs. We implemented recommendations from the Task Force on Limo Safety to make commercial rentals safer and more reliable. We passed the first ever railroad safety package in our state's history to prevent future calamities like the one in East Palestine, Ohio, from happening right here in New York. We always invest in the best when it comes to our communities by creating opportunities at every turn. For many, it starts with education. And that's why I'm so proud that this year, for the first time, we're fully funding foundation aid for our public schools, finally ensuring that no one is owed money and looking to make sure that no one is blocked out of a brighter future because of the zip code they live in. And we're guaranteeing that students will eat at least 2 free meals during the school day in a world where many children receive the majority of their nourishment at school. This is important, it's imperative, and it's groundbreaking. We halted any increases in state tuition for SUNY and CUNY. We continued our investment in our public higher education system by providing $3 billion in capital investments. We know that in order for people to make good choices, they need to have good choices. That's why we've strengthened after-school programming, expanded investments in activities dedicated to the arts and youth athletics. And this week, we passed a bill to enact the School Anti-Violence Education Act, aimed at reducing gun violence among children. I remain a firm believer that public safety and justice reform can work together. This conference has never been a one-and-done shop. So we clarified the bail law to ensure that it's working as intended by providing judges greater discretion and put greater funding towards gun violence reduction and mental health treatment. And we're prioritizing second chances. And I'm so proud that today we passed Clean Slate, which will remove barriers that have prevented too many from reintegrating into society after they've fully paid their debt. Now, we can tap into the talent and potential that has been needlessly withheld from our communities due to perpetual punishment. In the same effort, we passed the landmark Wrongful Convictions Act, which grants citizens a meaningful review of their case to redress wrongful convictions, even in guilty pleas. We've also begun the process to fully outlaw forced labor as a punishment for crime, the well-known 13th Amendment loophole that has allowed legal slavery to flourish throughout U.S. prisons. Our bill, No Slavery in New York, is a monumental step towards stamping out our nation's original sin and accounting for the ways it still permeates our everyday lives. Our conference is committed to correcting the mistakes of the past so they are no longer the playbook of the future. That's also why we're finally advancing a commission on reparations, which will be tasked with studying the effects on how New York's status as an economic and cultural hub of the world has in many ways been built and shaped by slavery, and how we, as a state, as a nation, could atone for the generational trauma that's incurred. These are crucial steps towards building a strong and more equitable New York. But as I so often say, we can't reap the true reward of these efforts if the earth is uninhabitable. Just this week, New York was the center of the world's attention as we led the planet in the worst air quality by hundreds of points, shattering all records since the EPA first started keeping track as a result of the Canadian wildfires. We often hear the refrain, "It'll never happen in New York," but we as leaders know better. Whether it be reproductive freedom, gun control, climate action, we see now that the only guaranteed protections are the ones that we secure for ourselves. The stakes have never been higher. That's why I'm not only so proud of this nation-leading climate action we've enacted in the past, but of our continued efforts to make good on climate promises in the CLCPA while reversing the damage that's been done, because we no longer have to imagine how bad the alternatives can be. We finished this session strong on our commitment by getting the Build Public Renewables Act done and passing the Climate Superfund Act, which requires our biggest polluters to pay up on the cost of adapting to climate change. It also has the teeth necessary to ensure our clean, green infrastructure of the future is union-made right here in America. That's what our conference is all about, implementing ground-up reforms that not only target the urgent needs of our citizens in our state, but do so in a way that generates growth, prosperity throughout all levels of society. The challenges we face are really opportunities lying in wait. As this deliberative body passes common sense solutions, we're writing the blueprint for our greatest potential yet. So as you return to your districts to meet with your hardworking families in the community, all the people who you represent, I invite you to consider the ways our work here will change their circumstances for the better, and to feel proud of what we've accomplished on behalf of New Yorkers. I want to thank you all for another incredible, memorable, and historic year. And when you go back to meet all your hardworking constituents, don't forget to hang out a little bit with the people you actually know, love, and that have missed you for so long as you come up here away from your families. Have some time, enjoy yourself, replenish, travel a little bit, stay safe, and I will see you back happy and healthy in 2024. God bless. Thank you.